This video is going to be a look at the Ravens outside linebacker position. This will be probably the first positional preview, positional breakdown that I do prior to training camp to try to generate some conversation, some views, some discussion about the positional groups. I think there's two position groups that most Ravens fans would vote for if they were trying to improve a particular position, either outside linebacker, edge rusher, or cornerback. I'm going to project some of the things that I think each guy has as their strength. I'm a huge fan of Tyus Bowser. He's just a complete football player. David Ojabo's got a lot of potential. I'm really looking forward to seeing him on the field more in the regular season. I really don't care about the preseason. And then the guy I'm going to start with this video series is probably the most polarizing, but maybe perhaps the most important for the Ravens, and that's third-year outside linebacker Odafe Oweh. He's still just 24 years old. He won't turn 25 until December. In 2 years with the Ravens, yeah, he's made some dynamic plays. You're seeing some of them here. I think that might be part of the problem. He had a really hot start as a rookie, if you recall, in 2021. That might have been why the expectations were set super high. Now, granted, he was a first-round pick, so the expectations should have been high already. But as a rookie, if you recall, he had 3 sacks and 6 quarterback hits in his first 5 games. And you're seeing some highlights roll through here of the Week 2 win over the Chiefs in 2021. That was a game where he didn't have a sack. That was the only game in the opening month where he didn't have a sack, if I remember correct. The Ravens' 36-35 win. But he had 2 incredibly clutch plays late in that win, one of which here, the QB hit on the delayed blitz that forces a really bad decision by Patrick Mahomes into an interception caught by Tavon Young, and then the real timely swat to force a fumble by Chiefs running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire that you're seeing here. You've seen a couple times with a little less than a minute and 30 left in the game. The Ravens clinging to a 1-point lead, and the Chiefs moving down to try to get a chance at a game-winning field goal or go-ahead field goal. That opening stretch probably set the bar a little bit too high. And statistically, Oweh has just not lived up to these numbers or that hype since then. He's played in 28 games since this one against the Chiefs in 2021. And he's only registered 5 sacks in that time, maybe 6 if I've done my math incorrect there. Please let me know. I do intend to show a significant amount of film from 2022 in this video. I believe it portrays Oweh's performance well, and what I mean by that is simply he's been very inconsistent. There's been moments or entire games where he was locked on. The Bengals' playoff loss was perhaps the most extended example of really consistent play for him. I thought he played great in that loss against the run and the pass. It was a really complete game. I think he was only credited with 1 sack, even though he literally drove the right guard into Joe Burrow's lap and almost had another half sack on that play, and you'll see that here in a moment. Another play that I don't show here, he got into a passing lane when he was asked to drop back in coverage, which I don't think he's well suited to do. I think there's enough film of that to prove that. Don't really need to spend a whole lot of time on it. But in the playoff game, he had a really nice pass drop in the curl where I think, or in the hook area, got in the window that Burrow was trying to find. He chased down Joe Burrow on another scramble. I just thought he was really impactful in that game along with Tyus Bowser. However, it's easier to focus on the negatives at times. And the first play that I showed you, it's going to loop around here in a moment, in this little pass rush set, is the one that gets a lot of attention. It's a 3rd down. Now, granted, it ended up not being a pass play. I believe it's a 3rd down against the Falcons at home. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I thought it was 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6. And either way, this is clearly not one of his better plays. This is a poor play, just for real. I thought that he played really well against the Bills earlier in the season, before this game. But in my opinion, he just gives up his chest too often on pass rush moves or lack thereof a move to generate or plan anything. And this run play, which is basically a KO on a run play, is more of a rarity. I think he's actually been able to redirect and make plays against the run. But this one, if you ask me, is an example where he gets jumped by the right tackle from the standpoint of him thinking that it's a pass play. I might have the down and distance wrong. So if I do, feel free to let me know. Compared to his impressive play in the wild card game, this play stands out, obviously, as a situation where he looked horrible. He looked horrible. I'm going to focus on his pass rush in this little video set and the next one. I feel like he's a guy without a fastball, to use a baseball pitcher analogy. at least so far, his speed rush has been very inconsistent, even though you see some examples of him winning with speed to power, as they say. He doesn't seem super committed to it. And when I say it, I mean his speed rush. He doesn't seem super committed to it. There's times like this one here where he gets a little bit upfield and maybe is a little bit out of control, but is able to redirect back and in and get involved with the play. I wonder in what direction the relationship goes in terms of his speed rush. Here's the question I'll pose. Does his lack of commitment make his speed rush less effective? Or is the relationship in the other direction? Is his speed rush really only like a C plus level move? And he knows it. And that's why he doesn't commit to it. I don't know. Either way, I feel like he lacks a real speed rush in the ability to bend around the edge with a low framework consistently and set up other moves. I feel like he gives up his chest too often. And look, some of these examples you're seeing are not meant for any of us to sit here and say that's a win, that's a loss, because I really don't like that way of judging pass rushers. Sometimes the ball is just out quick, and there's nothing you can do. There's a play, I think, against Baker Mayfield and the Panthers from 2022 here in a moment that you'll see where the ball's just out quick. It doesn't matter what he or any other pass rusher does. This is the play I'm talking about. Either way, I feel like him lacking a real speed rush so far makes it difficult to set up other moves well. Even though you see some examples, this is an extremely impressive play, obviously, of him putting two spin moves on, getting a quarterback hit, slinging Tom Brady to the ground. If you ask me, the margin for error for Oweh on his pass rush move seems to be really small. I'm not explaining this from a real technical standpoint, so forgive me for that. But when you combine the less than impressive speed rush to the inconsistent use of his hands, in my opinion, you've got inconsistent usage of his hands, and simultaneous to that, hopefully I can explain this well, the timing of his hand moves, the timing of his swats often seems to be off a little bit. And those factors, if you ask me, make his margin for error really small, in my opinion. I didn't mean to fast forward to that one. Forgive me for that. That makes the margin for error for him really small. I'm not doing a good job explaining this probably from a technical standpoint, but he's got an upright style in a lot of ways with his moves. And then you get some plays where he looks really off balance. Now, again, this is a running play here that begins this segment, but my point in showing it is it illustrates when he's off balance. I feel like sometimes his upper body and his lower body isn't really coordinated. I'm really referring to pass plays, but I think that knockdown against the Falcons actually kind of proves my point. I thought it was a 3rd and 6 where he was expecting a pass set by the right tackle, and instead he got jumped. Again, I could be wrong on all that. Look, do I think that Odafe Oweh can be a 10 to 12 sack per season type of guy? That's a really big jump for 2022 based on what we saw. I think we saw 3.5 sacks. I've got another 3 plays where he's really close to being credited with a half sack or credited with a full sack. You had so many plays where Justin Houston is in there, Matabike, Oweh, Bowser, guys are all there at the same time, and you don't know who they've credited it with. And I'm just showing you the film. Realistically, I think we could see an 8 or 10 sack effort in 2023, especially if the Ravens reach their potential and they end up in the lead often in the second half of games. I'm really not talking about 2019 type, where you're in the lead every single week. I don't know that that's realistic. But with Tyus Bowser and David Ojabo healthy for the whole season, along with Oweh, there's just going to be times where he's off the field. Oweh's probably the more talented pass rusher. Ojabo is probably the more talented pass rusher of that trio in terms of a speed rush, in terms of natural ability. Bowser's the more complete football player by far than the other two. It's just not even close. Oweh probably fits somewhere in between those guys in most categories. I'm talking about against the pass. I'm isolating this against the pass, even though that Falcons play I showed you was obviously a run play. Moving on to against the run, I think he's been more consistent than pass rush situations, despite this play. I think he's really good at redirecting to the football after the initial block, for real. And you're going to see some examples of it in this video. On zone read plays where he's unblocked, he's got a little different technique in year two, 2022, than he did in 2021. I feel like he's more flat and more parallel to the line of scrimmage, like you see with his shoulders here. Generally left shoulder pointed down the line here, right shoulder pointed down the line here. Last year, it seemed like he was more angled, looking in. And there was a couple times I remember 2021, the quarterback keeping it as early in the season and getting around the edge. That didn't happen once in 2022. He's got really, really long arms. His length is spectacular. Great athleticism to close down on the running back like you see there and force the fumble. Um, Conversely, and this is really weird, when he's unblocked on pass plays, and I think I showed you one earlier on. I'm going backwards a little bit here in terms of my um, analysis or the audio, what I'm talking about. He hesitates when he's unblocked on pass plays. On run plays, it's kind of like he knows what to do. He's got the running back to his side. I know what to do to anticipate being left unblocked. All right, we'll move past this Falcons play. We've seen it enough, obviously. I feel like when he's left unblocked on these run plays, he kind of knows what to do. He's more comfortable. I've seen three in the last probably 4 or 5 days as I've been accumulating film and trying to organize it and organize my audio or what I'm reading out to you. I feel like when he's left unblocked on pass plays, he kind of like doesn't know what to do. And I don't know how to explain that dynamic from a technical standpoint, but he just hesitates when left unblocked on pass plays versus run plays. He reacts in a way that is typical for an edge defender. And look, he's made some really impactful plays, particularly the ones that I showed you against the Chiefs and the forced fumble against the Bills. These two plays against like a crack or a pin down, toss, outside zone concept or outside run concept are a great example of what he's capable of. One against the Bengals you just saw, and then this one against the Bucs on the road. I do think he's shown the ability to fold inside and make tackles that are not in his gap. You see a little bit of an example over here. Just a little draw play. He's holding his gap, which is C gap, which is what he's responsible for by alignment. Gets like a base block by the right tackle, and then he's able to fold inside. Sometimes it's like a 3 or 4 yard gain, but the point is he's making a play that he's really not supposed to against the run. I don't see that same level of ability to redirect and still make the play, still get to the quarterback on pass plays. I guess what I'm saying is, in a long-winded manner of doing it, is he's much better against the run than he is against the pass, just in my opinion. I don't refer to PFF stats and all that stuff. I'll address that a little bit later. But his long frame, his ability to redirect, his burst, and his just overall awareness seems to be higher on run plays, at least to me. You can let me know if that's your observation. Don't base your observations just off the plays I'm showing you because, I pick these plays and organize them by pass first and then run intentionally. I don't base my analysis off of stats-based services or ratings companies for real. I can't remember who it was. Somebody made a comment about it would be easy to find a stat. If you want that, go pay for them services yourself. Go look at them yourself. That's not what I do. In fact, it's very intentional because I don't believe some of them are accurate. I'm just telling you straight up. I do not believe that PFF or anyone should be rating certain pass rushes as wins or losses when the ball is out so quick that it wouldn't matter anyway. You can't predict what would have happened if the quarterback held on to it for another second and a half and then assign a win or a loss based on that evaluation or judgment. I just don't feel comfortable doing that, and I don't feel comfortable relying on other stats-based services to do that for me. I, in fact, think that's lazy, which was what the initial comment was. So feel free to re-comment if you wish, whoever you were. Look, I use the film, and I just evaluate it myself. And there's some drawbacks to that, clearly. The good thing is for Ravens fans, though, like for real, there's so many good content creators out there. Sip to Tally, Edgar Allan, Huddle It Up Films. Ingraven doesn't show film, but he definitely knows what's going on with the Ravens team and the strengths and weaknesses of the players, and he can address that in video form in an entertaining manner quickly. There's so many others that can give you a complete picture of a player like Oweh that you shouldn't rely on just one of them or just me. If you put me in the same, category as those guys, you shouldn't rely on any one person for your evaluation of a player. It should be an accumulation of all of those people. Hopefully my content fits, within the people that I just mentioned because I look up to all of them and think they provide great content. In my opinion, Oweh's just got to be more consistent, especially against the pass. His hand moves, his use of his hands while he's on the move seems like the weaker part of his game. especially against the pass. Do I think he can improve? Of course. He's still only 24. I think he turns 25 in December. Do I think that I think it's Chuck Smith, the new outside linebackers coach? Do I think he'll help in that development? I do. It seems like the Ravens have a superb defensive staff this year. I don't know if you agree with me, but it seems like they've got some great position coaches. I think they brought over the DB coach from the Eagles, who probably could have been their defense coordinator at this point. Having said all that, what do I think will actually happen? What do I think will actually happen with Odafe Oweh in 2023? Let me be clear. I do think he'll have a good season. I think he'll be impactful. I think he's going to give the Ravens good reps. Do I think he'll have 10 sacks? No, I do not. I would put it at 30-70 that he gets to 10 sacks or more. Now that sounds negative towards Odafe Oweh. It's actually not. It's a combination of what he's good at right now, where I anticipate the Ravens, where and when I anticipate the Ravens using him, and then also what other guys are good at. So let me explain. Ojabo is going to get a lot of opportunities to rush the quarterback. Bowser's going to be on the field a lot. Bowser is that guy that they keep on the field on every situation, and they move him around. You see a little example of it here in 2021. You got Pernell McPhee on the field at D tackle there, playing like a wide 3 technique. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Ravens re-sign Justin Houston. Personally, I would advocate for him specifically because he can thrive on 20, 22 snaps per game. Justin Houston doesn't, and here's my comparison. Hopefully I can wrap this up in a way that's somewhat succinct, even though I'm not good at that. I'm long-winded, obviously. Justin Houston doesn't need 40 snaps a game to put up 8 or 10 sacks over the course of a season. Odafe Oweh does. That's the difference. It doesn't mean anything bad about Oweh. Justin Houston's just a savant as a pass rusher. He just is. He's a whatever he is, a Jedi Knight, something. Mace Windu, I think somebody called him in a video last year. I mean, he's just a savant. He can probably get 8 or 10 sacks for another 2 years in this league, playing a very minimal amount of snaps. I don't believe he's signed with anybody. Personally, I would want to keep him fresh for those pass rush situations, get him matchups that he can win. Oweh, Bowser would be your guys that you kick inside in some cases. There's other players on the roster that you would want in that situation too. And then let Ojabo be on the outside, establishing his speed rush, using his athleticism. I think Ojabo just looks like a guy who's a smoother pass rush guy in terms of using his hands, having a lower pad level while he's on the move than Oweh. Oweh seems to be a little bit more upright. Houston's got over 100 career sacks. Between him, Bowser, Oweh, and Ojabo, I think the Ravens will have everything they need at outside linebacker for this next season. I'm not down on Oweh. I think he's got a bright future. He's moving into year 3, and things happen fast in the NFL or any level, any professional sport for that matter. Do we want him to get 10 sacks? Absolutely. Because we want him to develop and become a monster that we see on some of these plays like the ones that I just showed you. I think Oweh's going to have a good season for the Ravens. I'm not down on him from the standpoint of I don't want him on the field. Having said that, if you have 4 guys, Bowser, Oweh, Ojabo, and then Justin Houston, who can still play well against the run, let's be honest. If you have those 4 guys on a week-by-week basis, you can look at a particular matchup and say, this left guard is weak against this particular move. Well, that's Bowser's go-to move, bull rush. Or this right tackle is weak against a speed rush, so we want to match him up with Ojabo, because that's Ojabo's fastball. Justin Houston is a guy they moved around last year, I thought, based on the matchup. And Oweh, to me, of those 4 guys, is the guy who doesn't have a fastball on a pass rush move. That's my final statement for this video. Hopefully him and I believe the assistant coach is named Chuck Smith. I sure hope it is, because I've now referenced him 2 or 3 times in the video. It's his job and Oweh's job to develop a fastball, a primary move for him. I think his spin move is very good at times, but I don't think it's a move that's going to get him to the quarterback on the initial move. Oweh seems to get a lot of sacks, make a lot of plays on redirects, which speaks well to his awareness, his athleticism, his burst, and his length, and his ability to close distance. I would like to see him win more initial pass rush moves, clean wins that I guess PFF or other rating services that I've already criticized at length would say is a win. And me personally, I don't care who gets the win, how they get the win, as long as someone does. But for Oweh's personal growth, for his technical growth, he needs a move that he can win with often and he can establish in the tackle's mind and then use counters off of that. That to me looks like the weakness of his game as we move into 2023. Spent a long time talking about Odafe Oweh. If you enjoyed this video, look for another one on David Ojabo and then Tyus Bowser as well. I want to do extended film study of all three of those guys. Hopefully I did that with this one. Let me know what you think the positives were here in my analysis and the commentary and the film that I showed, and some things that maybe I neglected to show. I intentionally did not show him taking pass drops because I think it should almost be, removed from the paradigm in terms of what they ask him to do. Although I did think he got better at it near the end of the year. There's just no comparison between him and Tyus Bowser when Bowser is asked to drop into coverage, no matter which part of the field it is. Appreciate you guys' time. If you enjoyed checking out this video on Odafe Oweh, please consider grabbing a link to the video, sharing it somewhere on social media to help this video get more reach.